Hey all, today we are going to start talking about a new idea, and that is coordinate geometry. We are going to be talking about points and segments and lines in the coordinate plane. If you remember from algebra, the coordinate plane is that XY plane where we plot points. And so we're going to be talking about certain things within that. We're going to start with something hopefully that looks familiar, and that is slope. And slope is what I call the slantiness. I'm not sure if that's a word, but we'll use it, of a line. How sloped something is. So if you think about a hill, a mountain, something that is really steep, you would think is more sloped than perhaps like a driveway. Well, sometimes driveways are sloped, but say the parking lot outside of school. So slope is how slanted something, how steep something is. And so we can assign a value to that, and we can find the slope of a line if we have 2 points that are on that line. So just a quick reminder that points always have an X and a Y. The X comes first, the Y comes second. And there's a formula for finding slope. I talk about it maybe simpler than what you might be used to. And what we're going to do to find the slope, which we use the lowercase m for, we are going to subtract the y values of the 2 points we want to find the slope between, and we are going to divide that by subtracting the x values. And we could do that by hand if we want to, but I think I have a way to do it in Desmos that I hope you like. So in Desmos, I can hit this plus sign, and then I can create a table. And so I'm just going to put my points into that table. So I'm going to put -6, -3. And I'm going to put -7, 15. And what's nice is you can see, and it labels that the first number is the X and the second number is the Y. And so I like that it lines them up. And our slope formula is to subtract the Y's and then subtract the X's. Well, sometimes a mistake happens when we do it in the wrong order. And so I think that this Desmos solution is going to hopefully fix that. So I want to subtract the Y's first. You can see this second column is my Y's. So I can just do -3 or -3, and then I'm going to subtract minus +15. And that gives me -18. That's my y subtracted. And then I can do the same thing for the x's. I can subtract the x's, -6 minus -7, and I get 1. So my fraction is -18 over 1. And actually, when I'm looking at this, if I do it in this order where I subtract y first, -18 is on top of 1. And so I can just say that my slope is -18 over 1. This is how slanted my line is. And I think if I look at my graph, if I zoom out, I can see my 2 points there. -18 over 1 should be a pretty steep slope. And if I connected these 2 points, I think that you would think that line is pretty steep. So that's going to be my method for finding slope. You could do it by hand too if you wanted to. I could have done -3 minus 15 and -6 minus -7. Both ways are totally good. So you use which way you like, and then use that every time. It's good to always write the formula, because we do need to know that we have to subtract our values. But I'm going to put my points in 10, -18, and 17, 16. And I think that's going to help me organize what I want. I want to subtract my y's first, so -18 minus 16. Using Desmos is going to help me avoid calculation mistakes. It's going to help me avoid problems with positive and negative numbers. Then I'm going to subtract my x's, 10 minus 17. So I think doing this method is going to help you avoid some pitfalls of finding slope, where we perhaps don't subtract in the correct order, or where maybe we have a problem with some positive and negative numbers. So my top is negative 34. My bottom is negative 7. I can write that down. We always want to simplify fractions. So I'm going to actually put that negative 34 divided by negative 7 into Desmos. Negative 34 divided by negative 7. I'm going to get a decimal. I don't want my decimal as an answer. What I want is a fraction. And so over here on the left in blue, you see a little fraction symbol. Going to hit that fraction symbol. Sometimes you got to hit it twice. It's going to give us the simplified version of our fraction, which is just positive 34 over 7. Again, using this tool, Desmos is a tool, helps us make sure that we get a correct answer. And so if I go back, I can look and you can see the lines there. That's going to be a pretty steep line there between those 2 points in green. 34 over 7 shows this pretty steep slope. And you can also see that if I were to draw this line, it goes up to the right. When I had my other line, which had a negative slope, it went down to the right. So just a reminder that lines with positive slope go up to the right. Lines with negative slope go down to the right. And so even if I'm given a line, I can find the slope using the calculator. I can also find the slope by counting. Again, our formula is going to be the same. We subtract the y's and then divide by subtracting the x's. So there's a couple ways we can do this. We can find the coordinates of our points. So the coordinates here are 0, -3, and -4, +4. But you know yourself, you know if finding the coordinates of points is a challenge for you. And if it's a challenge for you, that's okay. We can also do a bit of counting if we have the graph. So y's are up and down. And in math, we read from left to right. So if I start from my point on the left and I count down 7, down is negative. And then I'm going to count right. 4 to the right is positive. I can get the slope of that line by doing some counting. So up and down is my y's. That's like subtracting my y's. Left and right is my x's. It's important to know that if I go down, it's negative. If I count up, it's positive. If I go right, it's positive. If I count left, it's negative. Sorry, I did those kind of backwards. So if I'm using my counting method over here, I always start from the left. And I like to write my formula every time. If I write my formula every time, I will remember it. And also I will know, hey, I got to do the y's first. So I'm going to count from my left point and I have to go up to get to my right point. 1, 2, 3. Up is positive. Then I have to go right 2. 2 is positive. My slope is 3 over 2. And again, you can see that a negative slope goes down to the right. A positive slope goes up to the right. The last way we can find slope, so we have slope between 2 points by giving the coordinates. We can find the slope between 2 points by having the actual graph of the line, or we can have the equation of the line. Here we have our equation in slope-intercept form. That means it's in this form, where y is all by itself. We have some constant, which we call b. At the end of the equation, we have an x, and then we have some number in front of x, which is m. M is our slope, just like it was in the formula where we subtract y and then divide by subtracting our x's. So when we have an equation of a line, and it's in this form where y is all by itself on the left, then it's in slope-intercept form, and we can just find the number in front of x, and that's our slope. So in our first problem, or our first equation, the number in front of x is this fraction, -7/4, and that is the slope of our line. In this second equation, there is no number in front of x. When there's no number in front of x, please don't confuse that with a 0. When there is no number in front of x, or there's nothing written in front of x, it's 1. So the slope of our line here is 1. It's always just the number in front of x. X is not part of the slope. As you can see in these examples and in the first two examples, x was not included in my answer when I said this is what the slope is. And so when we're pulling the slope out of the equation of a line, it's just the number in front of x. X is not included in our slope. So 3 different ways to find slope. I'll ask you some questions here at the end on how to find slope in those 3 different ways. Make sure you stay all the way to the end. Make sure you answer the questions. And as always, there's 2 of us here. Please ask for help if you need it at any point during this lesson or while you're trying to ask the questions. Good luck.